My name's Ruth from Gothic Decay and I produce work that looks like this. Today I'm going to show you what I'm working on. Basically this is a piece of work that it went wrong basically. So I chopped it all up. I think if I remember rightly, this was years ago. It was a piece and I tried to paint all these sort of industrial structures all over it. And it didn't work, they looked terrible, so I just chopped it all up, stitched it back together again, and then ended up with this. Which I thought, that'd be cool, what should I do with that? And there we are, it's been in this position for a while. I've tried to frame things on it, but it's just a bit busy. Anyway, so I have decided to, excuse the photos, they're not brilliant, but you'll get the idea. I'm going to make a piece of work based on a face that goes there, a piece of work based on some flowers that goes here, and then some kind of industrially bombed buildings and just general sad and destruction on a separate panel. So it's going to be 3 panels in the one embroidery. So I'm not going to be able to do that all in this week so that I could show you in the video. So it's going to be a multi-parter as we work through. So I'm going to start, funnily enough, on this one because I've framed it up. So I've printed it onto fabric, same as usual, iron the fabric, place an A4 sticker behind on the back of the fabric, put it through the printer. Obviously this is not recommended behaviour by the printer manufacturers, so take your fingers crossed and pray to all the various people that you might want to and hope that it all works out nicely. And out will come a printed piece onto a piece of fabric. So I know I don't like doing it like this, but I've put it into the hoop, despite the fact it doesn't hold properly because it's not fully to the edge, and I've backed it with another piece of fabric just to give it a bit of body. So yeah, basically that's what I should be doing. So I shall hide these out of the way and start by the old faithful techniques of some of this chiffony sheer stuff, some scarves that I found on eBay. Some of them very handily because the background of this piece is going to be red. Some of them, despite this being, I don't know if you can see, but it's very pale blue, have areas of pinky red in them. So yoink, we shall have that, thank you very much. So although a little bit wasteful, I'm going to cut this piece so that pinky red is in the background. However, I'm obviously going to use the rest of it in time, just not today, because it's a rather lovely pale blue colour. So I'll just move this needle because I threaded it all up ready and then put it in the way. So I shall put it there to be lost when I'm looking for it in a few minutes. So the outside of the picture is around about there. So I shall cut out a little border extra just because you can always chop it up, chop the fabric up to the, you can cut it back after you're done, but you can't add any more in. So I shall just cut this out. Now I tend to cut out a fabric like this sheer for the background because I never quite trust that the printed ink is going to stay exactly. So this way there's always something covering the background printing, it's not just left completely devoid of, oops. Oh. It's always got something over the top of it, so even if some of this decides to change colour or something like that, which it shouldn't do because it's all proper manufactured ink and everything, but at least you've got there's always something covering the basic white fabric. So there, we now have the start of our piece. So we shall smooth it down nicely. See, it's quite, I don't know what these pink marks are, but they're rather lovely in this context. So we shall pin it into position, just roughly, just so it doesn't wander about too much while we stitch it into position. So all I'm going to do is, using my invisible thread, which I can never find, probably because it's invisible. Haha, still making the same jokes. There we go. the invisible thread, I shall stitch just little seed stitches just to hold this all in position. Otherwise it kind of goes all baggy. And you want this to be part of the embroidery, not a sort of flappy, weird addition. Right. So now whatever happens, we've got a little bit of something. The embroidery has started. So one of the things I do like to do is just start with something. It's a bit like dyeing a piece of work that's, you know, like this. Is just get something on there to stop you being afraid of it. So all I shall now do is sit down with the wrong pairs of glasses on, as always. I haven't even turned my light on. That's useful, isn't it? Now look, see? You can see what I'm doing now. Wow, the professionalism just drips off me, doesn't it? Right. So, just teeny tiny little stitches. Just every, I don't know, inch or so, something like that. To just keep the fabric, this sheer fabric, where it's supposed to be. Right, we'll film that little bit again because I wandered off the edge of the screen. So all we're going to do is round about every inch or so, tiny little seed stitch, nothing that you'd be able to notice. Away from the edge a little bit, because you don't know what you're going to necessarily, you might want to cut this right up to the very edge, in which case that's great, it'll still be there. But if you want to leave this little flap of something just to add a bit of detail when you add it to the finished background, well then you can. You know, you can chop it off, but you can't add more in very easily. So yeah, just little tiny stitches like this. And then I'll be back when it's done. Right, so I've stitched that piece down and I'm just trying a new camera setup. So I hope it works and doesn't all just fall on the floor. So bear with me. And I'm sorry if it goes shaky or weird. Anyway, so we've stitched this down. So it's still a little bit baggy and loose, but it's at least going to stay roughly where it's going to stay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some texture into this building here. So I'm going to start by using some expander print, not sponsored, just what I've got. It's like a sort of puff paint kind of stuff. I don't know whether you remember that, but anyway, it's so it's like a sort of like a paste that you sort of you're supposed to put on sensibly with, I guess, brushes, I suppose, but I always use my fingers because I'm a grubby individual. So I'm just going to add little touches of it in here because ultimately I don't want to have to stitch the whole thing, because I'd like to add a bit of different types of texture in. So I've got this as a little mask so I can keep nice straight lines and things. So what we should do is add some of this to here. So it needs a very, very thin layer because it puffs up a lot. So you have to be a little bit careful because the heat can get so hot that it can melt the sheer fabric in the background. Well, that can be useful textures, or it might not be. So you just be prepared. So can you see just here how it's starting to make the sheer melt? See, it's gone ever so slightly pink because it's pulling out the ink from underneath. But you see how it melts the chiffon. I mean, if you just go with it and say that the universe has decided to add in this texture for you, rather than trying to control everything, because otherwise you just get into a hell of a mess. Because nothing ever quite goes to plan in the world of textiles, I find. So we're going to add a bit more in. what I'll do now is add a little bit of colour. And I find a useful thing to this, again, not sponsored, is walnut ink. This is in a crystal form. I believe you can get liquid versions as well, but I quite like the crystals. Don't ask me what this is, I have not a clue. Somebody told me it was something to do with poaching eggs or something, but I don't know. Anyway, it's a very useful paint palette. So we put a few of the crystals in here, a little bit of water. Give a little mixy up. I don't tend to mix it like thoroughly, so there's still bits in here because it adds little changes in colour and texture and things. See, that might be a bit strong, that colour, but that's okay. Put a bit of water in, mix it about, and just try and put it onto the areas where the expander print is. I'm going to sit down now because I can't see what I'm doing, so hopefully this will work better. There we are. Right, so here we are. I have painted it all up. It's not yet dry, but you get the idea. But you can see all these sort of cool little textures that have appeared all down because the sheer has melted away. That's fine. Like I say, we just we work with what we're given. Don't try and struggle against it, otherwise it will just be a horribly stressful process. And if something goes really badly wrong, well, then you just cover it up, so it's all fine. So I'm now going to work on something I'm not terribly good at, but I know my sister, who she uses the name Fabstracts with 2 F's. She is very, very good with Tyvek, and I'm not, but I'm going to try. This is actually a sleeve from the Tyvek suit. You can buy them quite cheaply, as I think there's some sort of, you know, like DIY thing. I'm going to see what happens with this with the seam. It might do something quite interesting. So all I'm going to do is add some heat with the heat gun. So as I understand, you can either buy quite expensive sheets of it for the world of embroidery, excuse the cat squeaking, or you can just go and ask a friendly builder and he'll help you out, hopefully. So I'm now going to use some Lutradur, which I know is not a Spanish wrestler, but I'm sorry about the cat squeaking again. So this kind of bubbles up, and it tends to bubble one way or the other. Like this one is bubbling away from the heat, so the round section is becoming... You see, there's lots of nice little interesting textures going on in there. So this one tends to pull apart like a sort of spiderweb thread. Now, it comes in different thicknesses. See, this one's quite stiff and tends to create these quite sort of, I don't know, plasticky chunks for me. So I think, Lutradur came in 30, 70 and 100. So the 70 is what I would tend to use. The 30 is a little bit fine. And the 70 is what we've just used here, I think. So we'll have a go with the fine one and show you the difference. Blends much more simply like that. Just see, it's a lot, I would say it's a lot easier to work with personally. It's a lot more sort of flexible and goes into more frilly sections rather than these big sort of chunky ones, but you know, it's whatever you fancy. And I know we're all grown-ups here, but it is called a heat gun for a reason, because it makes a lot of heat. So watch your fingers. Now, I tried to see what would happen if I put this through the, you know, if I cut out little shapes with it, but it didn't work. So I think this is the middle size one, so we'll see what happens with it now. Well, it's very interesting. It's not what I wanted, but it can definitely go in the scrapbook of possibles for another day. Very interesting. Anyway, so all I need to do is take my piece of Tyvek and, oops, my walnut ink from earlier, and just dollop it on. If you use quite a lot, then it sort of pools in the gaps. Hello, Leonard. Maybe if we all say hello, Leonard, it'll help. Hello, Leonard. Yes, we can hear you. Anyway, right, you get the idea. So we'll be doing more of that and painting this too. Really interesting colours and textures that start to happen. Anyway, right, you don't need to watch me do the whole of that, so I will paint some things and wait for it all to dry. Right, so here we are. I have painted up all of these as you saw last time, and they're now dry. So one thing I did forget to show you is sometimes you can sprinkle the what's it called, walnut ink on top of these things, just as a sort of little dots of it appear a little bit darker, but it didn't really show up that much on this one, but you see little tiny specks here and there. Anyway, so here are the finished things. So I cut up one of the pieces of Tyvek and I have pinned it to, let's move this out of the way, the embroidery, just down here. So it works quite well. So what I'm going to do now is, with the famous invisible thread, I'm going to just stitch it down into position. So do a little tiny bit of that, and then you can imagine the rest. So all we do, like with all the other things, little seed stitches along the edge. It also just helps to blend it in with the background a little bit, to avoid, in my mum's words, the famous stuck-on syndrome, where something just looks like it's been plonked on and doesn't look like it's part of the embroidery. So yeah, just little teeny tiny stitches around the edge of all of them, and then when I've done that, I'll get back to you. So I've finished stitching down the little rocks now, and they've integrated quite nicely. I mean, I'll put something over the top of them soon, but I'm going to stop there for this week's video. If I'm honest, I'm just a bit shattered after moving house and things, so not a huge amount done this week, but interesting things nonetheless. So I did, as a slight side note, I did treat myself to, you know, my needles are always bent, as you see. I treated myself to a packet of new ones. There we are. So very exciting. It came with a lovely note as well from eBay, from the Imagination Station, which not sponsored, but just thought you'd like to know, and very sweet of her. So these are the needles that I use in my work, and I've never seen them actually in shops, and this is the first time I've seen them online, that you can just buy them, you know, in small numbers. Normally you seem to be able to have to buy them in like 250 of them, so that's very nice. So anyway, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. It would mean the world to me if you would do the honours and like and subscribe. So I shall show you more next week as to what's happening, and we shall see the piece progress from there. So thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.